Welcome to Suburban Artistry. In this video, we will be discussing the anatomy of cameras and basic exposure. This is an image of a basic camera. It has a camera body and a lens, which can contain glass or just be a pinhole. Across from the lens is the film plane. Inside the lens is an aperture, which is just a hole for light to enter. In front of the camera will be your subject, which is whatever you're taking a picture of. Light reflects off of the subject and enters the camera via the lens and aperture and is projected onto the film plane. Due to the nature of light through an aperture, the image on the film plane is inverted. I will now show you different types of cameras and how they're the same. Here we see a large format camera. This is the camera body, the lens, and the film plane. If we rotate the camera, you'll see the aperture. Here. This is an example of a subject. The hand from the left with the thumb up. If we look at the ground glass, you can see the image is inverted. This is a medium format camera. This is the camera body, the lens, and the film plane. This is the lens. In this case, there are two. A viewing lens, which projects the subject onto a ground glass using a mirror, and a taking lens, which projects the image onto the film through the aperture. The aperture can be made larger or smaller. This lens also contains the shutter mechanism, which controls how long the aperture is open. This is the ground glass. As you can see, the image is right side up. If we rotate the camera, you can see the image is still backward left to right. This is a modern digital camera. Small format film cameras will be very similar. This is the camera body, the lens, and the film, or in this case, sensor plane. Digital cameras tend to have screens on the back used for viewing. It shows the image uninverted entirely. On film cameras, you will use a viewfinder, which also shows the image as uninverted. Now we'll discuss exposure. Exposure is basically the amount of light required to accurately capture an image on film or a digital sensor. Exposure can be imagined as a triangle, with each aspect being one side. These are shutter speed, aperture, and ISO. Shutter speed is how long the shutter is open. Slower shutter speeds will keep the shutter open longer, allowing more light in. This can also result in motion blur on moving subjects. Faster shutter speeds will close more quickly and allow less light in. Moving subjects will appear more crisp. Aperture is also called f-stop. This is how large the opening in the lens is. Small apertures have larger f-stop numbers, and larger apertures have smaller f-stop numbers. Small apertures let in less light, but will increase the depth of your field of focus. This means that things in front of or behind your subject may also be in focus. Large apertures will let in more light but create a shallower field of focus. Objects in front of or behind your subject could be out of focus. ISO is how sensitive your medium is. This is true for film and digital photography. ISO is indicated by numbers. Here are examples of ISOs you might see. Lower numbers are less sensitive and will require more light. Higher numbers are more sensitive and require less light. All of these aspects come together to properly expose for an image. In film photography, ISO is the base for your exposure, which is why I have shown it as the bottom side of the triangle. Your film ISO doesn't change, and so shutter speed and f-stop will be based off of it. If you use a lower ISO film in an indoor or night setting, typically you will need a slower shutter speed and larger aperture. Conversely, outdoors on a sunny day, the same ISO might need a smaller aperture or quicker shutter speed. Digital cameras can adjust all three aspects from shot to shot. I hope this information will help you to understand that cameras are largely the same and that learning to use one helps prepare you to use others. I also hope this helps get you off of automatic settings and into manual.